Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Hey everyone, welcome to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning, coming to you live from the remote Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I'm Jake Hitt. I'm obviously not Shane Matthews this morning. Shaner is doing good things for charity and good things for his golf game. So I'm joined by John Cornell, JC. How you doing, JC?
Good morning, Jake. It's great to see you again. And, we've got what I consider one of the two biggest football weekends in Florida's season on an annual basis coming up tomorrow up in Jacksonville. And, Jake, this is a game that's got so much history behind it. And, we're going to spend the next hour talking about this and all of college football. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with you here this morning and talking to Gator fans as they chime in about what I consider the biggest rival or one of the two biggest rivals on the schedule as Florida plays Georgia. And this is the one game, Jake, I really get excited about as a guy who went to another school, came back, went to Florida, spent time at other places, but grew up as a Florida guy, a Gator fan. My dad would take me to this game. We would watch it. We would suffer through it in the 80s and in the late 70s. And this is one of the personal rivalries that I have as a Florida follower, and certainly Georgia is all they've advertised this year with the team they're having and the season they're having, and a great spot for the Gators to spoil some things.
Yeah, they're very legit. I didn't get to experience this game very often growing up.
Yeah.
I actually didn't go to a game until I was in college. But for me, Georgia, when I was in school, Georgia and LSU were the big schools for me that I hated and considered like pretty big rivals. So, but like you said, no matter, what team's ranking is or, where each team is, it's always pretty big, at least for one side of the fan base. And people will come to this game just to not even go to the game, just to sit out in the parking lot and have a couple of beverages. And, that's just the whole tradition of it.
Well, and that's what makes it special. We've talked about this every year it's played, that the game being in Jacksonville has an exact number of fans on both sides of the stadium. The trip is much longer for Georgia. And when Steve Spurrier came to Gainesville and he took over the program in the early 90s, he used to always say there was no reason why we should struggle against the Georgia Bulldogs. We're playing basically a home game. They have to travel. They have to fly. We get to take a bus. There were all these reasons that he pointed out that made so much sense, and nobody could understand why Georgia was having the best of this rivalry. He shows up, obviously runs through an incredible 90s run there with the Gators. I think he won, I want to say, either 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 11 games against the Georgia Bulldogs. So that changed and flipped the series completely upside down. And it got Florida people, it brought them hope, it brought them excitement, and the disappointments that Florida had to live with through the 80s against the Georgia Bulldogs, and believe me, they were a lot. That was becoming a distant memory, and the University of Florida then took over the series and took over this rivalry. And since, I guess, Spurrier has left, Meyer had a lot of success, but we had so many famous instances with Mark Richt and the celebration in the end zone, Urban Meyer calling 3 timeouts in a half-empty stadium, so many things that I'm sure you're familiar with and that you remember that just brought nuance to this rivalry. And it is to me, along with Florida State, one of the two biggest games on the Florida schedule year in and year out. But this game, being a conference game, at some point or at times was even bigger because Florida was in the running for the East. Now, that's not the case this year, but Florida has a chance to come off an open week, as you know, and maybe do something special that nobody's been able to do, and that is penetrate Georgia's defense, score some touchdowns, and make this a competitive game for the Georgia Bulldogs, who frankly have not had one yet. I guess.
To your point about it being a home game for Florida, that's something Kirby Smart's actually pointed out before, how he's like, we have to travel much farther than they do. We lose a home game out of it, and that's he's been. I don't know if he's been an advocate for playing it on campus, but he's saying like, look, this is not like an even split here. But you talk about the Georgia defense that's really good. Pretty obvious stats that I have here. Number one scoring defense in the country at 6 points a game, which is just absolutely stupid. 270 yards a game given up to this year. Florida's actually, that's number one in the SEC, and Florida's number two in the SEC in yards gained on offense, 501, and number 6 in points scored at about 34 points a game. So definitely that's probably going to be the key matchup. And people will also say, the key matchup will also be the Florida defense. Everything's a key matchup when you play Georgia. Some actually pretty interesting stats that I want to point out for the Bulldogs. I call these sabermetrics, but they're just more like next-gen stats that I stole from this website. Mm-hmm. So the Georgia defense actually has the best 3-and-out rate in the SEC. It is 57.89%. So almost half of their drives, teams are going 3-and-out, almost 60% actually. They have only allowed 12% of their drives have been scoring drives this year, as opposed to Florida, which is about 27%. Which is and this like you said, this defense is really, really good. One thing that I've mentioned and pointed out to a lot of people is their ability to swarm to the football. They have so much speed, and when they don't lose an ounce of physicality with it either. Usually guys that are faster, a little bit lighter, don't hit as hard. No, these dudes will punch you in the mouth.
Yeah. Jake, this team is as physical as I've seen play defense in the league since probably the 2012 Alabama team and some of those Florida teams in the 90s. I just see a different framework, a different type of athlete, a different type of player. These guys are all going to be they're going to have opportunities at the next level for sure. And I really do believe that because of their physical nature, that's why they beat Auburn so badly in Auburn by 24 points. Auburn's receivers just couldn't catch footballs. It's either they didn't want to catch the footballs, they didn't want to get hit. But here's the thing, Jake, these guys were open. Auburn had open receivers throughout and on some of their possessions. But when receivers drop balls, that contributes to the lack of rhythm. That contributes to the 3-and-outs that you talked about. And it just really lets the offense or the defense down when you can't get first downs because you're afraid to catch football. But the point I'm making is that these guys were open, dude. They were open, and I think somebody needs to challenge them. And what would it be like if, in my scenario of the ideal situation for Florida, starting out the game, winning the coin flip, having Anthony Richardson, who automatically brings excitement on the side of the field as well as in the stands, drive them down the field and score, and all of a sudden it's 7-0 to start the game. I mean, remember, Georgia's had a week off, Florida's had a week off, so getting out there on the field, there's going to be a lot of energy, it's going to be a lot of excitement, this and that. But CBS has a way of sucking that out of you with their breaks and their 3-minute timeouts and so forth. But if Florida were to get the ball, dude, score, go up 7-0, and Richardson is clearly the guy who's going to get that call, if that's what happens, that brings an element to the game where this is all about momentum and this is all about, emotion. And I think, having watched so many of these games, that many times, and I've said this with Shane before, Jake, when Florida and Georgia play, a lot of what you think is going to happen ends up not happening. And certainly when they were up 14-0 last year, they were counting that W, and then Stetson Bennett gets hurt. And nobody saw that coming, but it happened. And then the rest of the game was history, and Florida dominated them. So this is just one of those games, dude. I'm telling you, if you think Georgia's just going to walk over them 42-0, I would be very, very surprised, and I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, you talk about things that are very unlikely in this series. How about winning the game, throwing less than 10 passes for Florida?
Matt Jones.
Mike McNeely, fake kick or fake field goal just for that. And then sometimes you think it's going to be competitive and it's not. I remember in 2017, I was like, Georgia hasn't played anybody. They beat up on some bad teams. I was a moron that year because obviously that was probably the best team Kirby Smart's put on a football field. But and all of a sudden, first quarter, it's 21-0, and people are just flocking to the exits because they know what's happening. But let's get a word in from our first sponsor, South State Bank. Center State Bank is now South State Bank, but we still put business first. We understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State still has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking forward, member FDIC. But, you mentioned this. You mentioned this with Florida, JC, and it has to do with getting that first drive. I think, this is something to where you cannot mess around on your drives. You have to be efficient in almost every one. You have to go more than just 3 plays. It can't be wasted possession here, 3 runs and a punt, things like that. And you mentioned them having to score on that first drive. I think it's absolutely critical they get in the end zone on the first drive there, not just for momentum, not just for they have the lead, but they're probably going to need every touchdown that they get just in case, it comes a little bit harder to score early on or they can't stop the running game, Georgia.
Well, obviously, yeah. And I think because of Georgia's defense, and again, I'm just saying that's my dream scenario is that Florida gets the ball first. They bring in Richardson. The crowd's amped. The sideline is bouncing. And for some reason, they go ahead and score, right? And the thing that you cannot afford to do against a team with this defense, Jake, as you know, is fall behind. If they fall behind 2 touchdowns like they did last year, and Bennett's got time to throw, and they're just running the ball, and Bennett's working off play action, this could be a really bad day. It could really be ugly because you don't want to get behind a team with a defense that can just peel their ears back and go crazy on you. But Florida is the best offensive team that Georgia will have played to this point in the season. I mean, to give you an idea of what Georgia's done, and it has been impressive. But, Jake, come on. Clemson, woeful offense. UAB, nothing. South Carolina, they don't even have a quarterback. Vanderbilt shouldn't even be in the SEC. Arkansas was coming off so much emotional highs that there was no chance for them to stay close in that game in Georgia. And when the punt got blocked, the floodgates opened up. Auburn's receivers just dropped passes when they were wide open. And Kentucky is challenged somewhat offensively. So it's not like Georgia has faced Alabama's 2020 offense last year, okay? Or an offensive team with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence running all over the field. Georgia's not faced those guys and hasn't faced anything remotely like it. So if you can be dynamic, if you can get some first downs and get some rhythm going, and if you've got a guy like Richardson, who let's say he peels off a run for 35 yards down the sideline, momentum is everything in this game, and that's what Florida's hopes are. And they've had 2 weeks to get ready, so let's see if they can do it.
Yeah, that's the great equalizer is Dan Mullen in terms of what can happen on the football field when it comes to the offense, just because of the nature of his play calling at times, and how he can really, if he wants to, really open up the playbook and just uncork it and throw every single thing at you. And people have always mentioned he is a guy who is great at developing matchups and exploiting them. You look at just last year, he noticed that there was some insufficiency or at the linebacker spot for Georgia, so he just kept killing them with wheel routes the whole time.
That's right, wheel routes. Sure.
So it's just one of those things to where you're going to need Dan Mullen to call a really good game, and he's capable of doing that. And that's what can really keep Florida in this game. And they're probably going to have to throw the ball because of the fact that like you said, Auburn had several receivers open against that.
They were,
and it's not. I don't know about you. You being an Alabama guy, I'm probably sure you don't, or you agree with me here. Bo Nix does not scare me at all, like as a quarterback. So I'm sure it doesn't scare Georgia.
No, but he didn't.
Yeah, but more of this, more on a couple more stats on the Georgia defense. Why I think they have to throw the ball. They actually missed tackles at the lowest rate of anybody in the SEC at about 20%. And if anybody was wondering, Florida's percentage there, about 31, which is third to last in the SEC.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, that last game didn't help, dude. That last game was brutal. Right.
Not at all. And that's just on run plays, and they've allowed 0 big runs this year, which means runs of like 10, 15 yards. So that's going to be really critical for Florida to throw the ball. And Dan's always mentioned we're not a whatever this is offense. We're not a run centric. We're not a pass centric. Yeah, well, he said. I remember he always say, "Yeah, we're going to probably run it a couple more times than we used to." Rushing attempts are up 10 from last year and the year before, but this will really prove one of those things where if we got to throw it, we got to throw it. If we got to run it, we got to run it, kind of deal.
Well, and Florida can run the ball. They've shown that they can run the ball. Sometimes they get away from that. I don't know why, but Georgia is really stout, like you say, against the run. They've got possibly the best defensive tackle that's played football in years in Jordan Davis. And, some guys have even put him on as one of their Heisman candidates on their ballot because you get to pick 3. Jordan Davis can really disrupt and make your life miserable. So Florida's definitely going to try to, in my mind, spread them out. When you've got a potential mismatch on the line of scrimmage, sometimes the best thing to do is just spread things out and get some space, try to create space. But then again, a lot of times, if you can run between the tackles and get 4 yards on first down, or if your quarterback can be dynamic and use his legs to try to set up easy second and third downs, you're going to have more success. I don't think offense is the problem for Florida, even though they're going up against the best defense in the country statistically. I think the problem for Florida could be, honestly, stopping Georgia if they can't get off blocks. If Georgia takes the LSU playbook and decides, we're just going to put bodies on these guys up front and dominate Florida at the line of scrimmage, Todd Grantham's going to be in for a very long day, and it's probably going to be the last Georgia-Florida game he coaches as the Florida defensive coordinator. So I'm not trying to get anybody fired here. I'm just saying this is what probably could happen, unfortunately could happen for Florida if they don't get a lead or if they don't stay with these guys and keep the ball away from Georgia. I'm more worried about Georgia's offense matching up against Florida than I am Florida's offense matching up against Georgia. I really am. Because I believe that Richardson can be effective. I believe that Mullen can scheme it up, and I believe they can get some first downs on this defense. What I'm not sure about, Jake, is whether or not Florida can get off the blocks, whether or not Florida can stop Bennett, whether or not Florida can stop Georgia's running game. And if that becomes a problem and the Gators fall behind, just drink as much as you can because that's about the only way you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to promote alcoholism here, Jake, but I'm just saying that, I want to see, and I believe it could be a close game. I fear, though, that if Georgia controls the line of scrimmage offensively, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that real quick. Tell you about Celebration Point. They are where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Prime and Pearl, Regal Cinemas, Medici, Dave & Buster's, Skechers, and the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Make your reservations today at spurriers.com. And now open Thursday through Saturday, Visors Tailgate and Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate. To your point there, JC, about the Gator defense versus this Georgia offense.
Yeah.
I agree with you. The defensive line, which has had the propensity to do this, has to be disruptive. The tackles are going to need to be able to fill up double teams or at least, win at times because it's Georgia and their offensive line is usually really stout as well. So It's going to come up to them to free up those lanes, and the linebacker is going to have to play downhill because that's definitely what Kirby Smart's going to want to do. And they're just going to have to play. They're just going to have to play extremely physical and be able to get off those blocks, like you said. Because so many times when LSU ran that counter trap play, whatever you want to call it, guys were just. It was like you said, it was hat on a hat, and guys just couldn't get off the blocks to do it, or a guy just shoved them, and they just happened to be taken out of the play for a little bit. So you're going to have to be able to anticipate, utilize your instincts, and move a lot quicker than you do instead of react because of the fact that, that's what Georgia's going to want to do. And that's how you gain the advantage because they definitely have some speed at linebacker with Mahmoud Diabate and Tyron Hopper. And I've seen those guys be very good at flying to the line of scrimmage, shooting gaps, all sorts of stuff like that. Not to mention Jeremiah Moon, who I think has been an absolute revelation this year. He looks extremely healthy, and he looks like he's very capable of, making plays for the Gator defense. Another thing that's going to be really important for the defense is the pass rush. I think almost every game the pass rush has started out slow for this Gator team. It has, taken a while to get into the flow of things or get a decent push on that line of scrimmage, a push on that pocket. When he starts, he is in Stetson Bennett. When they start throwing the football, you're going to have to be able to get pressure on him, force him into a mistake, because that's another great equalizer there on the field outside of offensive play calling is turnovers. Team can't score if they don't have the ball, JC.
Yeah, that's right. And Jake, man, I mean, I would hate to see Georgia just rip through Florida's front seven. This is where Zachary Carter's got to come in. This is where Dexter's got to come in. This is just where, like you say, Moon. I just think, though, that because of the emotional component to this game, the fact that it's in a stadium that's going to be absolutely rocking, it could get ugly in the second half, or it could get very interesting. And it's up to Florida offensively to keep the ball away from Georgia. You don't have to score in 30 seconds. You can hopefully create, and this sounds ridiculous because of the way Georgia's played defense this year, but maybe you can create a 5 or 6 minute drive. If Richardson, and really, I'm saying all of this based on my belief that Anthony Richardson has to be your starter, and they cannot rotate. I'm sorry, but Emory Jones has had his chance. He's played. We've seen the results. We have to go to one guy. And I don't care what anybody says who has played this game or not. When you have two quarterbacks, it's because you don't have one quarterback. And the question to me is whether or not Richardson can get into a rhythm and not have to keep coming in and out and in and out. Just give him the ball. Whether he's successful or not, to me, is almost secondary, because we have to start fresh. And you've got to give this kid a chance. It's not fair that he's getting his first start, or should get his first start, against the damn Georgia Bulldogs. He should have been playing against Vanderbilt. He should have been playing against South Carolina. Well, not South Carolina, but Vanderbilt and whoever the hell else they played. He should have been playing in those games a lot more than he did. So we're really throwing him into the fire. But he's the kind of kid who I think can do it. And if things go bad and they end up punting on the first 3 possessions, don't change. Don't throw Jones in there thinking that it's going to change anything, because to me, we've seen him. The results are clear, and Georgia's not going to be any easier for him than LSU was. So give Richardson the ball and say, it's your game. I'm not the coach here, Jake, but if I were, that's exactly how I'd approach this game. And just let him go. Just let him go and see what happens, man. We don't know what can happen because we've only seen a small sample size of that against LSU. And last time I checked, he had those guys up and down the field. So LSU's not Georgia, but Richardson hasn't had enough time to play. And not playing him against Vanderbilt was malpractice by Dan Mullen. And in my opinion, they should have been playing this kid a lot more. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money in terms of if you're going to play him, you got to play him a lot. I think especially because if he is the guy for you in the future, you're gonna you're gonna want him to have this experience. That way, he's ready for it. I don't think Emory Jones playing 20 some odd total snaps between the 2 or 3 games he's been in, that's not going to get you ready for the Georgia game. Could you imagine if Emory Jones just went right into that as a starter?
No. Right. And Jake, the other thing is you don't want Anthony Richardson at the end of the year talking to his UCF or Gus Malzahn. You don't want him talking to Mike Norvell over in Tallahassee. And this day and age, this is what we have now. It's free agency. We all know this. You've got a special talent here. Let him go and play him. Again, nothing against poor Emory. He's a great kid, and he's a tough kid. But, damn it, you cannot beat this team with him. You will not win the SEC with him, and we have already seen enough. If you don't play Richardson, you are basically telling the fan base, including guys like me who are sometimes fans, that listen, I don't really care what you guys want. Doesn't matter. I'm smarter than everybody else, and maybe he is. But remember, if the Florida Gator Nation has a guy that they believe is better than the one that's playing because of what we've seen on the field, it's just going to get worse and worse. The temperature is going to be turned up, and you're going to see. I don't know how long this guy will hang around. So he's gotten he got his raise, he got his extension, blah blah blah. It's all about results. We all know this. This is a results-driven business first and foremost. I think he's going to be here for the long term, but I think he needs to make the Gator Nation realize that he's not too stubborn to try something else when things aren't working. They've got 3 losses. They're looking at 4 dead in the face. That's not Florida football. If it is, then you've turned into a developmental school. And I don't think Florida fans want to be called that.
Yeah. What have you done for me lately would be the operative term there.
That's how it works, yeah.
And in terms of having things done for you, turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. This October, mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. 13%, very interesting number there for your discount.
That is the number. Yeah, they should make it 15% if number 15 saves the season. And believe me, you've got 3 losses. This season can be still saved if you beat and knock off the greatest team the SEC has ever seen, right? The Georgia Bulldogs, the Georgia Bulldogs. Listen, I think Georgia can be had, but I also think Georgia is very good. And I'm not discounting one damn thing. They could blow out Florida 44-10. They could also lose to Florida. So I just think that Florida's got to go in there relaxed. They got to play loose. What have they got to lose? Get Richardson in the game. Run your damn offense. Keep the ball away from Bennett and those guys and see what happens. And, yeah, I know it's easier said than done because Georgia's got the 85 Bears playing defense. Well, guess what? They do not have the 85 Bears playing defense. There are guys running open all over the place. You just got to get them the football, and they've got to catch it. And so we'll see if it can happen. Arkansas couldn't do it, but that's Arkansas. South Carolina couldn't do it. Of course they couldn't. Vanderbilt's not going to do it. No. UAB's not going to do it. No. I mean, I haven't said one team that's really that good. And so they'll be challenged in this game more than any other game they've played to this point, the Georgia Bulldogs. And so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, Joseph on Facebook, he agrees with you. He says the Bulldogs have not faced a good offense until this weekend.
Right. No, they haven't. And the good offense they faced decided to play scared. When I say play scared, we're talking about kids dropping the ball in the seam. We're talking about kids dropping the ball on the sideline. We're talking about offense that had no continuity because they couldn't get a first down, not because of what Georgia was doing necessarily, even though maybe some of it was, but because they couldn't execute. They didn't catch footballs. They couldn't run the ball. And consequently, if you can't pass the ball, you're not going to run on that team, right? So you've got to loosen them up, get them out in space. Get these players out there. Get Pearson. Get Davis going. Let's get Richardson moving around. Let's get him throwing it deep. Let's get him running the ball if there's a spot to run it, and then throw it deep on the next play. If they get a turnover on the 48-yard line of Georgia's side of the field, that's called the strike zone. Take one to the house. Throw it deep. Who the hell cares if it gets picked off or if it goes incomplete into the 5th row? Throw the damn football downfield. And if you can do these things, Georgia's going to start looking at each other like, what the hell, man? Why the hell? This ain't happened to us. Nobody did this kind of stuff to us because nobody they played could. So maybe Florida can try that. Get the ball down the damn field. Get Richardson involved. Keep Jones on the sideline unless Richardson gets hurt. And go Gators.
JC, very passionate today,
dude, this is Georgia. This is the team that I despise more than any. And this is the Florida-Georgia game. I've grown up with this damn game. It has broken my heart, but it has also given me a lot of joy. So, Shane will tell you, look, he got in there in the 90s. He won 4 straight years against the Georgia Bulldogs. If you had said, okay, this skinny kid from Mississippi is going to play against the Georgia Bulldogs, he wasn't even that highly touted out of high school, but he did win a state championship in Mississippi. But nobody knows who the hell he is. but he's going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs 4 years in a row. You know what kind of odds I could have gotten? And I've told him that, and he goes, "Oh, dude, it's just football." And so
it's not just football. That's money. That's money.
It's money. It's not, and it's also Georgia, damn it. It's not Kentucky. It's not Vanderbilt. It's Georgia. And then right after them comes Florida State on my ranking of rivals for the Florida schedule. So that's it, dude. I mean, Richardson has got to play. Richardson has got to be the reason Florida is successful if they are. That's the only way I see it. It's the only way.
Yeah. And just before we get to break here, I do want to ask, over under 51, Georgia's hit the over 3 times this year. How you feeling?
Yeah, I like over because I think Georgia will score on Florida for sure. I do think, though, that Florida has a chance to keep them off the field and do some good things. Listen, they've got an average of 500 yards of offense. Granted, they haven't played a defense like this, but and I think the best defensive team maybe that Florida has played up to this point wasn't necessarily Alabama, but rather maybe Kentucky. And, they just made some bad mistakes against Kentucky with all these false starts, but they could have scored so many points, So I think statistically speaking, Florida can score on Georgia. I do believe that to be the case. So I would absolutely go over 51 in this game. I know Georgia's got the 85 Bears or the 75 Steelers or whatever, but I don't care. This is college football, and you get a quarterback who is as dynamic as Richardson, who could probably, create some problems for Georgia. Then I think you're going over this game. I see a game in the 30s and 20s. Yeah,
not much tape on him either. For better or for worse.
Yeah.
So I mean, right. You saw that with when it came to when Alabama played Georgia in that title game. Jalen Hurts not doing well. What does Nick Saban do? Put Tua in. There ain't no film on Tua. There's no film on Najee Harris. There's no film on Jerry Jeudy. Put them in there. Let them make plays. Before we break, I do want to tell you about Chris Doring Mortgage. Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping some home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're going to take a break right now if Evan's ready for it. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Georgia game. A ton of top 25 teams in action this week and World Series tonight.
And don't forget our Peachland Dental picks. I got those for Shane and I, and you can jump in there too, Jake. We'll see who gets the picks down. We got to do that too.
Yes, I'll get them there.
All right. Okay.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Visor's Tailgate and Rooftop Bar, located on top of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point, is now open Thursday through Saturday. Visor's covered open-air bar is the perfect place to gather after work or meet up with friends. You'll love the handcrafted cocktails and elevated shareables available every Thursday through Saturday. Visor's Tailgate and Rooftop Bar is perfect for fans of great food, great drinks, and great weather. Visor's not required. High spirits are highly encouraged. Visit spurriers.com/visors.
And welcome back from break. I'm here joined by JC. I'm Jake Hitt, filling in for Shane Matthews today, talking a little Georgia, talking about the little Florida-Georgia game as well. But Georgia's not the only team that's got a number by their name in action this week. We have about 17 top 25 teams playing this weekend. So, a couple games I have circled. Michigan State, Michigan. Pitt, they're playing Miami. Ole Miss at Auburn. Obviously Penn State and Ohio State. And this is one probably most people won't see because it'll be at 10:30 at night, but San Diego State and Fresno State. I'll tell you what, Brady Hoke got the Aztecs playing well.
Unbeaten.
But Jake Haener is my guy. That guy he's a baller, okay?
Yeah, he is. He plays hurt. He beat UCLA on his own with one leg. I mean, the guy is everything you'd want out of a college football player, quarterback-wise, for sure. And so Fresno is never to be taken lightly. There's another game that's kind of off the radar that's got my attention. That's SMU and Houston. Houston's played better lately, and SMU is unbeaten. So I always want to keep my eye on these unbeaten teams, Jake. But I think that, unlike last week when I don't think we had one top 25 matchup, meaning both teams ranked, playing against each other. We do have some this week, and we certainly have the big rivalry game in Jacksonville. So let's start with let's do this. Let's start with let's go to the Peachland Picks contest. My mom's calling in for some reason, so if I go black, it's I apologize. I'll get her off.
Hey,
I can't believe she's not. I can't believe Mom is not watching the podcast right now, but she just wants to remember that 57 years ago at 7:13 in the morning, I popped out. Today. So
Happy
that's all she's trying to. Well, thank you, brother. But I don't have time to be talking birthdays right now because we got a high level podcast going on right now. So with the Peachland Dental Picks contest, Jake, Shane gave me his picks. He's of course playing in Danny Wuerffel's golf tournament, which is what he always does on the Florida-Georgia weekend. So he's teeing off right now playing. But last night he was able to give me the picks. And then, Jake, I'd like to put a J by whoever you want on these spreads so that on Monday we can see how smart you are. So
not very.
Well, you just might be. Let's start it off with the Texas Longhorns playing the one-loss Baylor Bears. And I'll tell you, Dave Aranda has it going in Waco, man. And they are waiting for Oklahoma. But Texas is a bigger game for them because obviously in-state highway rivalry, Texas. I think Austin is all of about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Waco. So it's a big game for these two schools. Texas has been somewhat disappointing losing these big games here recently, but they're still dangerous, and they are catching 2.5 points from Baylor. So who do you like?
I probably would go with Baylor Bears because
we'll put a J by Baylor for you.
Texas is just Texas, man. It does not matter who it could be Charlie Strong. It could be
you don't trust them. You just don't trust them.
It could be Tom Herman. It can be Sark. I just don't. Texas
don't trust them
instead of the Texas Longhorns.
Well, Shane took Baylor with you, but I'm going to go the other way just to be different. I got a feeling this is one of those games where Baylor comes in all fired up and excited and everything, and then somehow at the end of the game, and it'll go to the last minute, I'm sure, somehow Casey Thompson pulls it out for Texas. So I'll take the 2.5 points. The next game is in the Big Ten where a resurgent Wisconsin team who could literally put you to sleep playing football is playing another team that can literally put you to sleep playing football in Iowa. I mean, we're looking at maybe 20 points combined in this game. In all likelihood, it is one of those in between the 30s, punt the ball, play field position, play defense, go to sleep, wake up in the fourth quarter and see who's winning. So Wisconsin's laying 3.5. They are the home team, but I like Iowa to bounce back from the disappointment. I'm taking the 3.5. Shane took Wisconsin. Who does Jake want to take?
God, it's Wisconsin's bad, man. They're not. They're not
bad.
good.
They are so bad.
I'll take the Hawkeyes just because.
Okay.
But the thing with the Hawkeyes is they won a lot of games, forcing a lot of turnovers, and they're gonna have to do that again. Especially like you said, with the fact that none of these teams really plays with a wide open offense, and I mean. Wisconsin's basically gone full military academy with how they run it in terms of, rushing attempts. And even though a service academy definitely scored more points than them last week.
Yeah. Well, you would think Wisconsin with Graham Mertz after that first game he played had found the next Joe Namath, but The point is, Wisconsin is just brutal to watch. It seems like I am watching football in the 50s. So I'm going to take Iowa getting 3.5 points. You give me the Hawkeyes getting 3.5 coming off the loss with Kirk Ferentz. I love it. Now, this is the bigger game in the Big Ten, the one that's got 2 unbeatens. It's a state rivalry, big brother versus little brother. You've got the Wolverines playing the Spartans. Michigan State with Mel Tucker unbeaten. They only beat Rutgers by a touchdown, though, in their last game. That concerns me because I think they're starting to peak or have already. They are getting 4, but I like what Harbaugh's got going over there at Michigan, and I'm going to take Michigan. Shane took Michigan State, though. He wanted the 4 points. What do you want?
I really like Michigan State. I really like Kenneth Walker. Okay. I think he's a playmaker. I think Michigan State is, they haven't won pretty in some of their games, but they've won. And, it's always a classic. I would go with the Spartans here. I'm going to roll with Spartans.
They've had Harbaugh's number. There's no question. The resurgent Florida State Seminoles are playing the colossal disappointment that is known as Clemson, and they're catching 9.5. Now, a month ago, I didn't think Florida State was going to win more than 2 games, but things have obviously improved. You've seen it, although let's face it, they're playing really weak teams. They are catching 9.5. I don't think with Clemson's offense, they should be favored by that much against anybody. So I'm going to take I'm going to hold my nose, close my eyes, and take FSU with the 9.5, as will Shane. What do you think?
I think I'm inclined to agree with you at the fact that Clemson's offense is just absolutely putrid.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
I think that, the thing is they're playing in Death Valley. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I can see, Clemson's defense is legit is the difference.
They are very good.
So they could definitely hold a 10-point lead, but you got to get the 10-point lead first.
That's right.
I'll take the Tigers. I'll take Tigers in 9.5.
Okay. All right. Okay. You got them. Here's another game that I thought had a lot more shine on it, but has certainly lost its luster with what happened last week in Happy Valley, which is now Sad Valley. Penn State and Ohio State. You've got James Franklin talking just complete nonsense in his weekly press conference. Absolute nonsense. You can tell how distracted he is, or he's just trying to throw off somebody and do this voluntarily, talking about playing at the big house, which is wrong, talking about focusing on Illinois, which is wrong, and ending up playing perhaps one of the hottest offenses, albeit against teams that were awful. But Ohio State can score points. We always know that. But they are laying 18.5 to a pretty stout Penn State defensive team. I don't know if Penn State will score on Ohio State, but if you're going to give me 18.5 points, I am inclined to take it. However, I think Penn State has hit a wall. I don't know what's wrong with that team, but when you lose at home to Illinois, you are not focused. And so I'm going to take the Ohio State team to lay the 18.5. Shane did as well, and I think Penn State's calling it a season. I hate to say it.
And you make a good point in terms of just what's happening with them. Seems like on offense, the era of the Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley, KJ Hamler, teams have just gone to the wayside. I don't know, man. Ohio State's a buzzsaw, but 18.5 is a lot.
Yes, that's right. That's probably the smart pick, taking the points, but I'm not. In this particular game, I think Penn State's thrown in the towel. But you're probably going to win it by taking the points.
Yeah, I'll take the points. But, to your point, though, 18.5, and you think, Penn State's going to cover that, and then they'll lose by 24. That's just the nature of the betting line.
Yeah. Ohio State has a way of getting all over you. If they go up by 21 points, I really can't see Penn State covering. But then again, maybe Ohio State stubs their toe, and Penn State rebounds. But boy, Illinois is a bad home loss, dude. That is a terrible loss. Especially
that was a terrible game. It
was awful. Yeah, it set football back 3 decades. I agree. North Carolina's playing at Notre Dame. Another big disappointment has been North Carolina, but for some reason they're only getting 3.5 against the mighty Fighting Irish. So that's kind of strange. But I'm going to lay the 3.5. I think Notre Dame can win this game by 7 or 10 points pretty easily.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. They're probably getting that much because of the fact that Notre Dame is kind of dealing with some problems on offense in terms of offensive linemen being out, having to switch quarterbacks, and things of that nature. Plus, UNC when they want to be really good, they can be really good. So I could see why Vegas can try to make this a close game in terms of the spread.
All right. So you've got the Irish, though, with me as well. All right. We go to the SEC, Mississippi at Auburn, man. I think Matt Corral is one of the toughest players I've ever seen play. A guy who can run the ball for 30, on 30 attempts is not what they want to do, but he did it anyway. They pulled it out at Tennessee. They blew out LSU. They are fast. Auburn, though, is the home team. Auburn has been good at home, except when they played Georgia that day. And we talked about that at length earlier in the show. Auburn is only laying 2.5. I'm surprised that Ole Miss isn't the favorite here, but I'm taking Ole Miss. You give me Lane Kiffin. If they get any of these players back who have been out, I think they're just faster. I think defensively they have played better, and I've got the better quarterback in Matt Corral, even though he may not be 100%. But I'm taking Mississippi. Shane is taking Auburn, which really confuses me, but he's taking Auburn, and I think Mississippi can win this game by 8 to 10 points.
Yeah, I think with the in terms of picking this, Auburn, weird things happen at Jordan-Hare for some reason.
Very weird. Yeah,
it's just always happened there. I'll take Ole Miss because +3 is not that big, and I am absolutely shocked that it's that they even have an underdog, a symbol, a plus sign next to the number.
Yeah, give me that. Yeah, you give me that quarterback with points, I'll take it. Hell yeah.
Yeah, they got a video game offense. I love it.
It's awesome. And they can scheme you on the field during the game. They can change things up. They have the flexibility. They've got the speed. I like Mississippi. Kentucky is at Mississippi State. It's homecoming in Starkville. My oldest son is there. It's a great day to be a Bulldog in Starkville on Saturday. They'll have 50-degree weather, clear skies. It's going to be a wonderful day. But Kentucky's coming off an open date after that bad loss to Georgia. Well, it wasn't a bad loss, but they were beaten, clearly. So Mississippi State, though, is laying a point. Shane likes the Bulldogs. I'm going to be sentimental and take the Bulldogs here as well. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Kentucky win by 10 points.
Yeah, you basically got to pick who wins here with a line.
That's right.
I'd probably go with the Wildcats just because they have the capability to keep that Mike Leach offense off the field.
Yeah.
And they play pretty good defense. And the way the Mike Leach offense works, you just got to get three balls to hit the ground in a row, and they're punting.
That's
you
right.
do not have to worry about the run at all.
No, they don't. That's exactly right. Some of those passes that they make into the flat are like runs, but you're right. This is a team that I think Will Rogers is doing a really good job with the offense, but boy, I tell you, they are sometimes hard to watch. We've got Georgia and Florida now to wrap up our college games before we take the 2 NFL games that I picked. The Georgia Bulldogs are laying 14 points. Now, this could go 44-20. This could go 28-24. I mean, that's just the way I see it. I don't think we're going to have a complete blowout here. I really can't see it happening. We talked for 30 minutes about this game and all the possibilities for both teams. I'm just going to be a homer. I can't help myself. If you give me 14 points, Mullen's going to try to – I think he's going to have success scoring. Shane says there's no chance. Georgia all the way. He's got them laying the 14. I'm being sentimental here, probably going to burn me, but I'm taking the Gators plus the 14. I just think that's a lot, and Florida can easily cover it. I just believe that.
Well, I think just going off past history, Georgia's covered, I think, once or twice in this game now. So I'll probably go with the Bulldogs just because, I bet against them already this year, even though I don't bet actual money. I bet fake money just to see if I'm right. But I was like, Arkansas covers 17, and then they got absolutely demolished.
Smoked. Well, I get that. But the one thing I see that Florida can do is score points. And I know Florida's going to give up some points. There's absolutely no question about it. But if you can keep Georgia's offense off the field, get some first downs, play field position, or maybe even get a couple points on some opening drives to get the emotion up, to get the momentum going, I think you're crazy if you don't think Florida's going to play this game hard. This is their season. What does Florida have to lose? There is nothing to lose. Georgia's a team protecting that number one ranking. Georgia's a team that knows already that they are going to Atlanta. This is their biggest game too, and one of their biggest rivals. So I get that, but I think Florida's going to stay inside of 2 touchdowns. All right, so our 2 pro games, local flavor here: Tampa Bay at New Orleans in the Superdome. Saints are getting 4.5 points in the NFL. That's a lot, but this Tampa Bay team scores like a college team, dude. They've got everything you need. If Brady is upright, they win. Now, last year, you remember the Saints dominated them in the regular season, only to get dominated in the playoffs by Tampa Bay in the Dome. I'm taking the Saints getting the points. Shane is as well, but it would not surprise me at all to see Tampa win by more than that. But I'm taking the 4.5.
I mean, I'm a Bucs fan, so I got to go with TV 12 with the Bucs.
Certainly. Jacksonville is at Seattle. I took this because the Jags are riding a hot 1-game winning streak.
Oh, God.
Go
Hurry
Jags,
up and get
come
this
on.
over with.
You seem so disappointed. Jacksonville's playing Seattle. Geno Smith, a horrible situation there. I'm rooting for the Jags, and I'm taking the 3.5, and he took the Seahawks. And you're going to take the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Seahawks, too. All right, that'll wrap it up.
Well, there you go. That's our picks.
Peachland Dental picks. Give you a couple reads here. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Now it's time for Peachland Dentistry picks. That's what we just did. They have a ton of locations. I'll give you a couple things here from the Facebook Live really quick. John said that Ohio State is going to win by 28. Okay. Joseph's got Florida State beating the Tigers this weekend.
It could happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an awful offensive football team at Clemson. DJ has just got no confidence whatsoever. Florida State's playing with a little bit of an edge. I'm with you there, Joseph.
And JC, Rick's saying your mom's calling to tell you to get off the AR-15 bandwagon. But we got a couple more reads here. I'll tell you about Comfort Temp. Comfort Temp is comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Comfort Temp is now hiring team members with all levels of experience, great culture and benefits, and opportunity for growth. $1,000 sign-on bonus for qualified positions. Call today to learn more about a career with Comfort Temp Company. 352-376-2366. And I'll tell you about QC Kinetics really quick too. You've got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back that won't go away. You need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. Not surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. Call today, QC Kinetics. So,
yeah. I hope we don't need some of that QC Kinetics driving back from Jacksonville on Saturday night. But, dude, this game is everything for Florida this year. I hope they play like it. I really do, Jake.
Yeah, and, big time thing for top 25 teams. Just want to throw this out really quick. In 2007, we had 26 teams drop in the top 25, or 23 teams drop in the top 25 around this time. To this year, 26 teams top 25. But that's going to do it for the show today. Thanks for JC.
Thank you, Jake.
Today has been good. This show today has been a wrap brought to you by Wrap Spot. And go Braves.
All right, go Braves.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.